Hello, this is Joan Friedman, your host on All Ways, ALLWAYS. ALL for the Academy of Lifelong Learning at Cape Cod Community College here on beautiful Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Here on All Ways, we like to showcase what we're doing. We like to advertise what we're doing. We like to advertise our curriculum, which we have a brand new one out right now, and we're taking applications for courses right now. And we particularly like to showcase our instructors who have a breadth of background and knowledge and who are generous enough in spirit that they volunteer their time to teach us in any number of types of courses, from science to English to philosophy to art, to pretty much anything that you can think of. So it is my pleasure on All Ways to shine a light on our coordinators. Today I have a very special coordinator with me. His name is Roger Shoemaker. Generally, I do a pretty intensive background on my guests, but Roger does a better job of it than I do. So Roger, I'm going to turn this over to you. And could you please tell us about yourself, your background, what you do at ALL?
Thanks very much, Joan. It's a pleasure, and I appreciate the opportunity. When I think about myself, one of the things I say about me is that I went to school and never got out. And the other is that I fell in love with theater at a very early age. And so my life was, I finally eventually figured out that I like teaching, I like theater. So I ended up teaching theater in schools of various sorts. So I started out really early because I went to an intensive music elementary and middle school. It was a choir school in Philadelphia, and we did 3 hours, 2.5 hours of rehearsal every day, performed on the weekends, performed with the Philadelphia Orchestra. This was a boys and men's choir, like in the English style. I was there because, not because I was terribly talented, but my brother was. So I had to go where he went. It was easier. But the first thing I ever did in theater was I was the sidekick in an operetta. I didn't have major singing, but I had some, humorous things to do. It's second grade, this was. So after I left that school, I went to a more traditional prep school where I kept singing and acting. I took classes and stuff. You're supposed to do that. I did that too, but mostly I was singing and acting my way through high school. And then I went to Yale. So I did enough in my academics to, get grades. That was good. And actually, there are the courses. I had some great teachers in high school, theater teachers and others, English lit teachers and stuff. So I was I got more and more excited about words and how words are used, especially in theatrical contexts. So at Yale, unsurprisingly, I did a lot of singing, a lot of acting, and took some classes. Most of the classes that I took were dramatic literature classes in English and in French and in the classical civilization for Greek and ancient stuff, and also the smattering of courses that you need to take at a liberal arts college, some of which were truly amazing. I love the history of the English language, for example, where English came from, how the words work. All that stuff was really great. So when I got out of college, of course, I'm supposed to be a lawyer or something, and I just wasn't going to work out. So I didn't do anything for a while. Then I worked in a television station for a while, and I didn't like that because it was all machinery. And I like to work with people. So then I like theater, live theater. And then I got a job teaching in a kind of odd, independent, experimental school for a year. A former teacher opened that I had worked with. And then I really learned that I like the teaching side. So teaching, theater, teaching. I could teach theater for a living. So I went to graduate school to get a Master of Fine Arts in theater directing at Catholic University in Washington. and was very fortunate after I graduated from there to get a college teaching job at Trinity College in Hartford, where I spent 10 years teaching theater and directing, and I was fortunate enough to have a professional theater in the summertime that I was the artistic director of. So I had a really great 10 years there. And then we moved to Boston, came out of Hartford, and I was fortunate enough to get a job at Walnut Hill School for the Arts. Now, Walnut Hill is officially an international independent residential arts high school. Most people don't know what those are. If you're of a certain age, you may remember the movie Fame, based on the play, that's about the LaGuardia School in New York. But these are specialized arts high schools, and there are quite a few of them in the United States and Canada, but there aren't too many independent ones or residential ones where the kids come and live there. Walnut Hill, outside of Boston in Natick, is one such place. So kids come who are already committed to becoming the best artists they can. An easy example is ballet dancers, because ballet dancers have to start very early and work extremely hard all the time in order to develop their skills. Or musicians, a high school serious pianist is working 3.5, 4 hours a day of just piano practice. So there are people think that at the high school you're just sort of narrowing down, but actually there's some people that are always already very committed to becoming the best that they can at something, which in high school is only as true if you're playing football in Texas, then that's okay. So I spent 25 years there as Dean for the Arts, had a wonderful time, did all kinds of stuff, had great artist teachers I worked with. Great kids came from all over the world, and so I would go to China and Taiwan and Korea and places like that where they came from, as well as around the country. So that was a great time. And then I retired. We moved to the Cape. Of course, I got bored immediately. So I went to Dennis Yarmouth to see if I'd be just to work there as a substitute. And anyway, they wanted to start a theater program back up. So they looked at my background and said, "You want to start a theater program up?" And I said, "Sure." So I had another 9 years of work at DY, directing and teaching theater, which was just great. The kids were great, the place is great, and we had a lot of fun. And then at the end of the pandemic, after teaching and directing online, which was pretty complicated and difficult, although it had its high moments. And when we were directing online or doing a play online with the kids, I never had a student who missed a rehearsal online. They were always there. The commitment was just great. Getting kids to show up for online classes is very difficult, but these kids were there. It was wonderful. And when we did one show live as a sort of reading version of the play in a band shell outside right at the end of the pandemic, and that was quite exciting. Little Women musical. Yeah. So we had a good time. So, but eventually, at coming around 75 years old, I figured it was time to, hang up my Cathornoi, hang up my various theatrical things and, actually retire again. So I did, but of course, I got a little bored. And what do you do? What do? I go to school. So I was looking around, and I someone suggested Academy of Lifelong Learning. They were still in online only. So I took some classes online that really interesting things, well taught, interestingly taught. And so when they went live, I continued to take classes, and then, of course, started to teach, because that's what one does, and coordinate. So I started teaching. I guess this is my third or fourth semester that I've taught, and there's two kinds of courses that I've taught at ALL. One is there's a series of investigation of great plays. These actually are great plays that I happen to know well because I've directed or acted in them or both. So I started off with a little Ibsen, a little Hedda Gabler, and then we did a Twelfth Night, and we're going to move on to an Antigone, where we approach the text the way that people who do live theater approach text, not as English teachers approach text, but as trying to take the text as something that is going to make something come to life. And that's a very different approach than the kind of criticism that one gets in looking at it as literature. Theater plays are literature only by default. Playwrights don't write plays for people to read them. Playwrights write plays for people to bring them to life. Actors, directors, they are maps toward a performance. So that we approach that way. We look at the play as a map toward a performance, and of course we're not making a performance, but we look at it through the lens of bringing those characters to life. And then I also taught one other course, which I'll teach again sometime, which is worked out very well. I really liked it, called An Introduction to Theater for Theater Goers, because there are a lot of people that love going to the theater, but they don't have a lot of background into what they're looking at in terms of where it comes from and how it's done. And so I went through the whole development of theater, what the pieces of it are, what goes into making it, so that when you see a play, after you see it, not while you see it, but after you see it, you can think about what they were trying to do, how they tried to do it, how well it succeeded at what they tried to do, a greater appreciation of what you just saw. And oftentimes, it really will help you know that you had a good time and why. So that class went very well. It was a little more presentational. That is, I talked a lot.
Yeah. The classes, on your great plays, and getting our members to look at the play and how it would be acted out. Could you tell me, what does one of your classes look like? Are people reading? Are people acting? Are they just discussing how they might do it? Could you tell me how
Sure.
what your class would look like?
Sure. The methodology is after some kind of introduction, so we have it in some kind of context where the play came from and so forth. Then we read. We read the play aloud, all of it, and assign people characters. And we read a chunk of the play aloud, and then we stop and we talk about what happened. One of the hardest things to do, it was particularly difficult with Shakespeare when we did Twelfth Night, is to imagine what is actually happening as opposed to what the words say. Because the words represent actions, and sometimes it's not so clear what's actually happening. You understand what the words say, but the words are action. Things are actually going on. People are doing things to each other, and the words are the clues. And Shakespeare is particularly difficult because there's no stage directions to tell you what's happening. You have to look at the text and know what could be happening that the text is bringing to life.
So that it's very interpretational on the part of the director. This is what I think Shakespeare meant here. This is what I think he wants going on in the background.
Well,
Would that be it?
The text, to me, you can never go against the text. Mm-hmm. You're not making it up. The text is saying certain kinds of things need to be happening. And if you don't do them, then you're going against the text. But if you do something that is different from what the text says, you're also going against the text. There's not just one way to do it. That's true. It's interpretive in terms of we know that these two characters are, one is fooling the other and pretending something and the other one's believing it. How that's done exactly, there's lots of ways of doing it. But it has to happen, right? Because the text is saying that's what's happening. So the job of a director and the actors, honestly, is to figure out what they would do, what the character is actually doing at any one moment. Also, why the character is saying what they're saying. What's the reason that the speech is there? it has some purpose. Nobody talks without a reason. They want something. They're trying to convince somebody. They're trying to defend themselves from somebody. There is a transaction going on all the time. And so we have to figure out as actors and directors what the transaction is, what's happening between these characters. And this is not so easy, not so clear, so that's why we stop and we talk about it. They're not, the students in the class are not becoming the characters in the play. To some degree, they're moving in that direction. But they didn't sign on to be actors and have someone watch them bring these characters to life. That's a much more complicated thing to do. But what we do is they read the lines, and then we talk about what's happening, and they begin to find themselves what's going on in this, why this character is the way they are, or that maybe this would indicate the character's different in some way. For example, when we did Hedda Gabler, the biggest question is Hedda Gabler a terrible person? Or is what she's doing justified? She does terrible things. Is it justified? Where did it come from? So that we're constantly analyzing the reasons behind the words. In a play, if you say anything on a stage and you don't understand why you're saying it, no one else will either. So you have to understand.
Antigone, a little different than Shakespeare. As we speak, we are in the middle of January of 2024. Our courses are still open, although registration has begun. Could you tell us what you would like our audience to know about Antigone, and why they should sign up for Antigone, and why that would be a really good experience for them?
Well, they should sign up because we would have some fun. This is all about fun. We learn stuff, but I believe learning is fun, actually.
Well, don't underestimate fun.
I never would do that. Yes, well, and I've chosen plays so far to do that I am intimately connected to. I've directed Antigone twice. I've acted in a separate production of it before. So I really know this particular. I also read French fluently, so I know the originals and adaptations and so forth. But what I know about it's not what's important, it's what we're going to discover together about the play that's important. And unlike the other two shows that I've done, Antigone is a little more easily accessible because it's written in a more contemporary, only 75 years ago, 78 years ago, as opposed to 250 years ago, so that makes it a little easier. But the center, for one thing, you'll learn about Greek tragedy, and that Greek tragedy is a wonderful thing and brilliant stuff. So we learn a little about Greek tragedy, but more importantly, we learn about what Ennui used the play to talk about in terms of an essential conflict that always exists in people. And anytime you have human beings, you have this conflict. And this conflict is a very important one in terms of society and how things operate, from individuals all the way through to large political operations. And that is the tension between pragmatism and idealism. It's the heart of the play. And there's what they call an agon, which is an argument in the middle of the play that's on the subject. And I find that's a pretty powerful idea that is very cleanly, interestingly developed in the play. So as we know, learn the characters and why they are what they are, what the storyline is, why they're doing what they're doing, what they're trying to accomplish, we're also going to be looking at the big picture about what this means about human beings and how to get along with each other and how to make things happen. Of course, it's a tragedy, so it ends badly for the main characters, all of them, because tragedy is about learning through suffering. It's about learning through mistakes, right? Things that we do wrong that have terrible consequences. That's tragedy. And the Greeks, it may have been 2,500 years ago, but you know what? People aren't that different. Technology is very different. People are not. And the ancient Greeks, 5th century Greeks, Athenians, these were people that are just as evolved and smart as anybody that exists today. And so their investigation of the human condition, theater in general are models of the human condition and what it is to be a human being. They are always built on what it is to be a human being. And characters are not people, but they're like people, and they help us understand concepts about what it is to be a human being, whether it's comedy or tragedy or melodrama, makes no difference. All of it, any good theater is always going to be about entertainment and enlightenment. It's going to entertain you, but it's also we're going to learn something from it. If it's good theater, you're going to learn from it. And so as we investigate these plays, we more and more discover what those things that we're learning are.
Essential human conflict.
Yep.
Let's start with something small like that.
There is nothing small in the theater. It's all gigantic stuff.
But that's what makes a good play, a good movie, is that essential conflict, depending on whatever situation it is.
Absolutely.
If it's in Greece.
Yes, you can't have plays that aren't about conflict because they're too boring.
If it's in the rural South, if it's an essential human conflict,
absolutely,
everybody's going to relate, and certainly we would love for anybody that's thinking about it, anybody in our audience, to sign up for Antigone. Or sign up for any one of our other courses that are so interesting, and we have many new ones. We have Introduction to Chess this spring. We have our memoir writing, which we have had in the past. Very, very, very popular. There's a memoir that says, if you met my family, you'd understand. And tongue in cheek, but who doesn't relate to that? There's a lot about filmmaking, 12 films that film buffs should know about and why. History of Cape Cod by James Coogan, who is one of our local authors, has written a great deal about Cape Cod. This is the first time he's teaching this course, and I've listened to Jim speak, and the stories are so entertaining, we have Let's Talk About Food for the first time, Introduction for French, which we haven't had for a long time. We're going to have The Economist again, which is a discussion through that magazine. We're going to be having a discussion class through the editorials of Heather Cox Richardson. Butterflies Across Cape Cod, which has been very, very, very popular for us. So there's any number of wonderful new courses and a lot of our old favorites. If anybody's interested in looking at our catalog, please go online. It's at capecodall.org. all small letters, and you can go straight to our catalog. You can register from there, and we are taking payments by credit card now. So you can do everything by the comfort of your living room now. Also, if you're the person that wants something, a hard copy, this is our catalog. It is out now. It is in every library in the Mid-Cape from Bourne to Chatham, also in all the senior centers and a lot of the real gathering places as well. So that wherever you've seen our catalog in the past, it is there right now if you prefer a hard copy, but it is online. So anybody that's thinking about joining us, or Roger, what would you tell anybody that's thinking about becoming an instructor?
Before that, I just want to talk about the two courses I'm taking, which you didn't even mention. One is Joe Osceola's course on poetry. Joe's a fabulous teacher of poetry, and I just learned so much from it. This third time I've taken one of his classes. And I'm taking the class on Kafka because I just know nothing about Kafka except the one metamorphosis everybody knows, but other than that, I don't know. So, I mean, there's such a wide range of fascinating things to take that it's more of a problem of choosing than a problem of finding something. It's just great. So that's a good thing. What did you ask me?
Question. If anybody is thinking about,
Coordinating.
what, I'd like to do something meaningful with my time, or maybe I'd like to teach what I've always had a background in, or maybe I'd like to teach something that's entirely out of my wheelhouse. For example, I have no formal background in art. I'm teaching an art class this time. So that it can be something that you just have always wanted to do. But what would you advise somebody that's just thinking about it?
Oh yeah, that I think that coordinating is so much fun. I mean, if you've ever had any teaching experience, it's great because you can use it. But on the other hand, there's no grading. There's no all of the things that make teaching kind of difficult are gone. And the other thing is that I've taught all kinds of people, and in the ALL, you've got a whole room full of people who, one, are actually interested in what you're saying, and two, have a wealth of human experience of their own to bring to bear on whatever it is that is there. So it's a wonderful, welcoming, interesting group. So that if you find something that's avocational for you or ex-vocational for you, that you could, and some of it is just coordinating a discussion group of people talking about an idea. And so you don't have to be an expert yourself in order to help facilitate that kind of thing. So I think that it's a lot of fun. It's well worth any effort you put into it. So if you've had any experience at all that comes to bear on, and take a class, you'll see what it's like, and then sign up to coordinate. I mean, ALL is the list of classes that we teach, so that the more people that are teaching more things that are more interesting, then the stronger the institution is. And I can pretty much guarantee you have a good time. You also can teach online at ALL, or you can teach in the room or hybrid where there are people online as well as in the room. All three of those are available so that if you need to work from home, you can do that part of it and teach an online course. So it's not hard to get involved with it. And the coordinators are very helpful. You've got people to help you with whatever that you need help with. And the committees, I'm on one of the committees. Committees work really hard to try to make things easy for people to be involved. So we're looking for students, and we're looking for coordinators all the time.
Thank you. Thank you for speaking so positively about ALL and the benefits of joining and benefits of becoming a coordinator, and also for telling our audience that we have a number of modalities. We are in class now. We also have almost half of our class are still on Zoom, and there are some classes that are hybrid, which means that they're both. So you can teach in any modality, and you can take a class in any modality, which is certainly the way of the future. But Roger, I want to thank you so much for being with me today. We clearly could talk for a very, very long time. And I want to remind our audience that you can see us. You can find us at capecodall.org. You can also find us on our Facebook page. We have a YouTube channel, and we are here on channel 26, Mondays at 11 a.m. and Thursdays at 6 p.m., where you can see this and all of our other broadcasts. So our catalogs are out right now. Please take a look at them. We would love to have you as a new student, as a new coordinator. Roger and I would like to thank you for listening. And remember to contact us at capecodall.org. Thank you and goodbye.